My name is Ashley Van Tol. I live in Lake Tahoe, California. I grew up about 2 hours away from here at another lake in California called Lake Almanor. I think that I contracted Lyme when I was living there as a kid in the 80s. I was extremely active before I got really sick with Lyme disease. I grew up outside. We had four-wheelers and we had boats and we were water skiing and hiking and biking and any other outdoorsy activity you can think of. Last year I really could hardly function. I couldn't have a conversation. I couldn't remember the words for simple things. I couldn't think. If somebody asked me a question or asked me to do something, by the time I turned around, it was gone. I didn't remember it at all. And I felt just really out of my head. Didn't really feel like I was there. I got really bad headaches and confusion. I went to this store one time and I felt alright when I got there, but by the time I was leaving I really didn't feel good. And I went to pay, but I didn't remember what you did. The girl checked through all my items, and when it came to the time that I was supposed to hand in my credit card, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. I reached in my purse because I knew something had to come out of there, and I pulled out my car keys and I gave her my car keys. I've been in treatment for just over a year now. I don't have those cognitive problems like that nearly as much anymore. Now I'd say that cognitively 80% of the time, as long as I'm working on my own schedule and what my body needs, I've got good cognitive function. Last year it was maybe 20 or 25% of the time that I actually had decent cognitive function. I have a lot of fatigue, which is kind of funny because I have really bad insomnia, so even though I'm extremely tired most of the time, I generally can only get 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night. I usually take a nap or 2, sometimes 3 during the day, just so that I can function. I've always had stomach problems, really bad digestive issues. They are better than they were before, but they still flare up sometimes. I have really, really cold hands and feet, to the point that sometimes it's painful, and I can't type, and I spend a lot of my time behind the computer. So I think that I contracted Lyme when I was probably around 9 or 10. That's about the time I remember the tick behind my ear, and also getting red rashes, splotchy rashes on my legs, and I always thought they were spider bites, and after I learned about Lyme I thought, maybe those weren't spider bites. But I didn't really start having symptoms that I truly noticed until my early 20s, and by that time I was in Tahoe actually at that time as well. I just started teaching skiing when things really started to flare up, and I met this really cute Australian boy, and I flew off to New Zealand with him to work there. And by the time I got there, I seriously thought I was gonna die. My stomach, it felt like somebody had stuck a spoon in me, just stirred up my insides. I was really, really miserable. That's when I started going to the doctors to try to figure out what was wrong with me. Of course, as with everybody else, nobody ever found anything wrong with me. I was told I was high-strung. I was told I had irritable bowel. I was given drugs for acid reflux and a couple other things. My anxiety was so bad that I was actually afraid of my own reflection in the mirror, and that was strange. I would just walk into the bathroom and I wouldn't look in the mirror because I was scared, and it wasn't that I was scared of what I was gonna see, like to see myself. There was nothing wrong with the way I looked. I just was scared of my reflection in the mirror. I was scared to go to sleep. I hated nighttime. When the night would come and it would be time to go to bed, I'd get really, really nervous because that's when my symptoms would flare really, really bad, and I'd just have a lot of anxiety at nighttime. And I remember thinking a lot of the time that, I love life, and there's a lot of things that I really want to do, and I didn't want to miss out on any of them, but I was in so much pain and discomfort and just depression and stress that at that time I just kind of figured, well, if I don't wake up in the morning, at least I don't have to deal with this anymore. I managed to keep teaching skiing for about, I think, 8 years, and this wasn't just, the winter in the United States, was the winter in the United States and then going to the southern hemisphere and doing another winter. I managed to do that for about 8 years. I was sick on and off the whole time. Some years were good, some years were really bad. Sometimes I would take out a lesson and wonder what the kids were going to do when their instructor keeled over on the side of the run. So I was a little bit worried about them. About in 2008, I left my teaching job in Aspen early because I just couldn't handle it anymore. I'd started suffering from really bad depression. I came back out to California and I started going to school to learn graphic design, and I really liked that. I've always really liked art, so it was really good in the beginning. So I started that in the spring of '08, and by the fall of '08 I was an absolute disaster. I was so sick. I looked gray a lot of the time. I did go see a shrink to find out if I was crazy. She told me that I was sick and that I needed to see a doctor. That's when I got diagnosed. I just kept going downhill, and my hip had started to hurt, so I went to see a chiropractor, and he's the one who told me all about Lyme, and he let me under our skin and scared the crap out of me and my husband. But now I knew what I was up against, and I knew how serious Lyme was. I had to stop working. I had to drop out of school. In school, I never ever had problems in my entire life. I've always been a really good student, you know, almost straight A's. But I couldn't remember things. I never knew when the assignments were due, and I was always surprised that, like, how did I not know this? I got tested for Lyme and co-infections, and I came up positive for Lyme disease, which is Borrelia. I came up positive for Bartonella, Babesia, Ehrlichia. I had viruses that were active. I had my thyroid was off. I had hormonal imbalances. I had so many things that I was just amazed that no doctor had ever found anything wrong with me in the past. Lyme disease is going to affect me for the rest of my life. Before I got really sick, I mean, I already was sick, but I knew who I was. I was a ski instructor, and I traveled the world, and I did all kinds of adventurous outdoorsy things, and I loved that. And then suddenly last year I found myself so sick that I could barely even walk around the block. Right now, you know, I live in the mountains, and the elevation's pretty high. Sometimes when I just walk up the stairs from my bedroom to the kitchen, I feel like I'm trying to climb Mount Everest. That'll get better. I know that'll get better with time, but I'm never going to be the person that I was before. I've had to start trying to redefine exactly who I am and find what it is that I'm going to do with the rest of my life, because I'll never be a ski instructor again. When Lyme was finally explained to me by a doctor, I was told that it would be at least 2 years of treatment, possibly more. I'm 1 year in now, so I'm still holding on to the hope that in another year I'll be really healthy and able to get back out and do some of the active things that I was doing before. My insurance covered $5,000 of the $20,000 that my family spent on my health last year. That was only 9 months. This year, I seriously doubt they'll really pay for anything. Lyme is a really serious illness, and it's not really treated by a lot of the medical establishment as a serious illness, you know. It's actually quite hard to find a doctor who, first of all, will believe that you're sick, and then second, will actually test you for Lyme disease and co-infections. And then even if they're willing to do that, they might not have any idea how to treat Lyme disease. It seems like there's a real lack of education when it comes to doctors and Lyme disease, and the public and Lyme disease. I went my whole life never even thinking once about it. I lived in California. I'd heard about it. It was an East Coast thing. Now I know that Lyme disease carrying ticks have been found in 56 of the 58 counties in California, and those aren't even recent tests. I hope that I can be symptom-free. I don't know that means that I'll actually be 100% Lyme-free.